She told me her son was spending Christmas with his real father, then accepted a Sydney transfer on my behalf without asking. Said if I didn't like it, I could divorce her. So I did both. Took the transfer and filed for divorce. By the time she called her lawyer panicking, it was already too late. My name is Dylan Hartwell. I'm 48 years old, and I'm a corporate attorney specializing in international mergers and acquisitions. For the last 12 years, I've built a career helping companies navigate complex restructures, offshore holdings, and asset protection strategies. Ironic, considering I never thought to protect myself. I married Stephanie 14 years ago. She came with a 5-year-old son named Blake, bright kid with his father's athletic build and his mother's sharp tongue. His biological father had walked out when Blake was 2, chasing some yoga instructor to Bali or Barcelona. I never cared enough to remember which. I stepped in, coached his little league teams, sat through every parent-teacher conference, paid for the private school that got him recruited by 3 Division I programs. I have 2 daughters from my first marriage. Claire, 20, is finishing her junior year at Georgetown Law. Maya, 16, still lives with us, quiet and observant in that way that makes you wonder what she's really thinking. Their mother passed when they were young. Cancer, swift and merciless. The warning signs were there, scattered like breadcrumbs I was too tired to follow. Stephanie started going to a business development coach named Richard. Her interior design consulting, which had been more Pinterest boards than actual clients, suddenly required evening strategy sessions. She bought new clothes, changed her perfume, started pronouncing certain words differently, like she was auditioning for a life I wasn't invited to. December 23rd. That's when it all crystallized. We were having dinner, just the 4 of us. Maya had made her famous garlic bread, the kind that fills the house with warmth. Blake sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, probably looking at scholarship offers. Claire was home from school, helping set the table. Stephanie walked in last, phone in hand, that particular smile playing at her lips, the one that said she knew something you didn't. Blake spending Christmas with his real father, she announced, setting down the silverware with deliberate precision. The room went quiet, not the comfortable quiet of a family at peace, but the kind that precedes something breaking. I looked up from my plate. Excuse me. She didn't meet my eyes. His father reached out. They've been talking. Blake wants to spend the holiday getting to know him. Blake shifted in his seat, still not looking up from his phone. The kid I'd taught to throw a spiral, whose college applications I'd edited at 2 a.m., couldn't even look at me. We can discuss this, I said, keeping my voice level. Years of negotiating million-dollar deals teach you to control your tone, even when your world is tilting. Stephanie laughed, sharp and cold. There's nothing to discuss, Dylan. He's his father. Blake deserves to know his real family. Real family. The words landed like a slap. Claire's fork hit her plate with a clang. Mom, that's... It's fine, I said, raising a hand. Blake, is this what you want? Finally, he looked up. 17 years old, 6'2", with a full ride to play football at USC, and he couldn't hold my gaze for more than 3 seconds. Yeah, he muttered. I mean, I should get to know him, right? Maya pushed back from the table without a word and walked upstairs. I heard her door close, gentle but final. I turned back to Stephanie. And where is this reunion happening? He has a cabin in Colorado. We'll drive up tomorrow. Her smile widened, and in that moment, I saw it clearly. This wasn't about Blake reconnecting with his father. This was about her reclaiming something she thought she'd lost. And I was the collateral damage. I'm going too, she said, to make sure Blake's comfortable. And Dylan, if you have a problem with any of this, you should know I took the Sydney transfer. My firm had been trying to get me to relocate to our Australian office for 2 years. Senior partner position, massive salary bump, complete relocation package. I turned it down twice. For her. For stability. For the family. You what? The words came out quieter than I intended. I called Harrison this afternoon. Told him you'd accept. They're thrilled. You start February 1st. She stood, gathering her plate like this was just another dinner conversation. We'll be back after New Year's, she said. You can start packing. I sat there, watching her walk away, Claire staring at me with wide eyes, Blake still glued to his phone like none of this mattered. And that's when I made my decision. I didn't yell, didn't argue. I simply stood, walked into my study, and closed the door. The job offer from Sydney was still in my email, marked unread for 18 months. But there was another message, one I'd archived 6 months ago when things first started feeling off. A private investigator's final report. I opened it and began to read. Every late night strategy session, every lie about working late, every hotel receipt from business trips that never appeared on any company calendar. Then I opened my laptop and started making calls. 3 time zones away, the sun was already rising in Luxembourg. My estate planning attorney answered on the second ring. "Dylan," he said, "it's been a while. I need to activate the contingency protocols," I said. "All of them." There was a pause. "Are you certain?" I looked at the family photo on my desk. Stephanie smiling, Blake in his football uniform, my daughters on either side of me. It had been taken 2 years ago. We all looked so happy. "Completely," I said. "Consider it done." I hung up and sat in the silence of my study. Upstairs, I could hear Stephanie packing. In the driveway, Blake was probably loading the car. They thought I was the kind of man who would just take this. The steady provider. The reliable stepfather. The one who'd never push back. They were about to learn otherwise. They left before dawn. I heard Stephanie's heels clicking on the hardwood, Blake dragging his duffel bag down the stairs. The Range Rover's engine rumbled to life in the driveway, and then they were gone. I didn't go to the window to watch. I was already on my 3rd cup of coffee, sitting at my desk with 3 laptop screens running and my phone on speaker. "The trust restructure is complete," my Luxembourg attorney said, his accent clipping the words precisely. "All assets previously held in joint tenancy have been reclassified under the Hartwell Family Trust, with you as sole trustee and beneficiary administrator. And the house transferred to a subsidiary holding company this morning at 4 a.m. Eastern. The deed shows Hartwell Properties LLC as owner. Your wife's name appears nowhere in the documentation." I took a sip of coffee. "What about the vehicle? Corporate lease under your firm's name. I've instructed the leasing company not to renew when the term expires next week." "Good. What else?" He paused. "Dylan, I must ask, are you certain about this course of action? Once we proceed to the next phase." "I've never been more certain of anything," I said, cutting him off. "Continue." Maya appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas, holding her phone. "Dad, did Mom really sign you up for Sydney without asking?" I gestured for her to come in. She sat in a leather chair across from my desk, the one where clients usually sat when I explained why their merger was falling apart. "She did," I said. "That's messed up." "It is. So what are you going to do?" I looked at my daughter, 16 years old, already sharper than most people twice her age. "I'm going to accept the position," I said. "I'm flying out Tuesday to finalize the arrangements." Her eyes widened. "Wait, really? But what about your mother and Blake?" I finished. "They'll figure it out." "Dad, I don't understand." "You will," I said. "In the meantime, I need you to do something for me. Pack a bag. Just essentials. You're staying with Claire at her apartment in Georgetown until I get back." "Why can't I stay here?" "Because this house is about to get very complicated, and I need you somewhere safe." She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay," she said. "But Dad, whatever you're doing, I hope she deserves it." I smiled, the first real smile I've felt in months. "She does, sweetheart. She absolutely does." The flight to Sydney was 13 hours of uninterrupted planning. Business class, noise-canceling headphones, and 3 encrypted calls to attorneys across different time zones. My firm's managing partner, Harrison Cole, met me at the airport himself. 62 years old, silver hair, the kind of handshake that still meant something. "Dylan," he said, gripping my hand. "I have to admit, I'm surprised. When Stephanie called last week, I thought she was joking. She wasn't. But you've turned this position down twice. What changed?" I looked him straight in the eye. "My priorities." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Well, we're damn glad to have you. The office is ready, the contracts are drawn up. We can finalize everything this afternoon." "Actually," I said, "I need to make a few modifications to the standard relocation package." "What kind of modifications?" "I need the corporate housing to be registered solely in my name, not joint tenancy. I need the vehicle allowance to be a direct lease to me, not a family plan. And I need the signing bonus to be deposited into an account I'll specify." Harrison's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's unusual. I'm in an unusual situation." "I see." He paused. "Dylan, is everything all right with you and Stephanie?" "It will be," I said. once the paperwork is finalized. He didn't press further. 20 years in corporate law teaches you when to ask questions and when to just process the request. We spent the afternoon in the Sydney office, 43rd floor, harbor views that would have taken Stephanie's breath away. I signed contract after contract, each one carefully structured to ensure that nothing, absolutely nothing, could be claimed as marital property. That evening, I video called Claire from my hotel room. "How's Maya?" I asked. "She's fine. We ordered Thai food and watched terrible reality TV. She hasn't asked too many questions. She will." "I know. Dad, what exactly are you doing?" I leaned back in the chair. "Do you remember what I taught you about asset protection in divorce proceedings?" Claire's expression shifted. She was in her 3rd year of law school, top of her class in corporate litigation. "You're invoking the premarital capital clause," she said, "among other things. Does Mom know?" "Not yet, but she will soon." "How soon?" "I've been gone 3 days. The trust administrator visits her tomorrow." Claire was quiet for a moment. "Dad, I know she hurt you, but this is scorched earth." "No," I said. "Scorched earth would be vindictive. This is just legally accurate. Everything I'm taking back was mine before she ever touched it. The house, the investments, the accounts. I built safeguards years ago when I started noticing the distance between us." She signed every document I put in front of her without reading a single word. "Because she trusted you. Because she didn't care enough to pay attention. There's a difference." My daughter sighed. "What about Blake?" "That one hurt. I won't pretend it didn't. Blake made his choice," I said. "He's got a scholarship. His father can figure out the rest." "That's cold. That's survival." After I hung up, I stood at the window and looked out at the Sydney harbor. The Opera House was lit up against the night sky, beautiful and completely indifferent to the small human dramas playing out in hotel rooms across the city. My phone buzzed. A message from my Luxembourg attorney. "Trust representative made contact. Documents delivered. Waiting for response." I typed back, "Keep me updated." Then I ordered room service and went over the employment contract one more time, making sure every clause was ironclad. Because in about 12 hours, Stephanie was going to realize that the man she married, the one she thought was too passive to fight back, had just rearranged her entire life without her permission. Just like she'd done to me. Stephanie's lawyer called her on December 28th at 3:47 p.m. Mountain Time. I know because my attorney forwarded me the phone records later. I also know because Claire called me immediately after, barely able to contain herself. "Dad, you need to hear this," she said. "Maya recorded it." "Recorded what?" "Mom's phone call. She was on speaker in the kitchen. Maya had her phone out. I should have told her that was inappropriate, that we needed to take the high road. Instead, I said, 'Send it to me.' The audio file arrived 90 seconds later. I put in my earbuds and pressed play. Stephanie's voice came through first, casual, unconcerned. "Hello. Stephanie, it's Richard Paulson, your attorney." "Oh, hi, Richard. What's going on?" "I'm actually at dinner right now." A pause. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Tight. Strained. "Stephanie, I need you to sit down. Are you somewhere private?" "I'm at a restaurant with Blake and, well, with someone." "What's this about?" "It's about the house and the accounts. And Stephanie, I need to ask you something very directly. What exactly did you let Dylan do?" Background noise. Plates clinking. Stephanie's laugh, sharp and dismissive. "What are you talking about?" "Dylan's in Sydney. He's been there all week." "Yes. And while he's been there, he's been very busy." "Stephanie, do you remember signing trust documents back in 2019? After you refinanced the house?" "Vaguely. There was a lot of paperwork. Dylan handled most of it." "Did you read what you signed?" "Richard, I don't understand what this." "The house is gone, Stephanie." Silence. Just restaurant noise in the background. "What do you mean gone?" "I mean it's no longer in your name. It's not in Dylan's name either. It's held by a trust entity, and you're not listed as a beneficiary. According to the documents you signed, Dylan has sole discretionary control. He transferred it to a subsidiary holding company on Christmas Eve." "That's impossible. My name is on the mortgage." "Your name was on the mortgage. The trust paid it off in full 3 days ago using funds from an account you also signed over control of without realizing it." More silence. Then Stephanie's voice, smaller now. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that every major asset you thought was jointly owned is now under Dylan's exclusive control. The house, the investment accounts, the cars, Even the checking account you've been using. It's all been legally restructured. He can't do that. We're married. California is a community property state, not for premarital assets. And Stephanie, according to the documentation, virtually everything was purchased with Dylan's premarital capital. Money he earned before you were married, or money that can be traced directly back to those original funds. You signed a post-nuptial agreement in 2016 that waived your rights to any of it. I never signed. Her voice broke off. Oh God, you remember now. He said it was for estate planning. For his daughters. In case something happened to him. He said it was just to protect them. It was from you. A sound like a chair scraping. Stephanie's breathing, quick and shallow. Richard, fix this. That's what I pay you for. Fix it. Stephanie, I can't fix what you signed away. I'm looking at the documents now, and they're airtight. Dylan's been planning this for years. Every signature, every notarization, every witness statement. It's all legitimate. Then sue him. Claim duress or fraud or, on what grounds? That you didn't bother to read legal documents before signing them? That you trusted your husband? No judge is going to. The line went dead. Stephanie had hung up. I sat in my Sydney hotel room, listening to silence, and felt absolutely nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just the cold clarity of a plan executed perfectly. My phone rang. Claire, did you listen to it? She asked. I did. Dad, she's freaking out. Maya said she locked herself in the bathroom at the restaurant. Blake had to get her out. Is she okay? Physically? Yes. Emotionally? I think you just destroyed her. No, I said quietly. She destroyed herself. I just documented it. Stephanie came back to Denver on January 2nd. No warning call. No text asking if I'd be home. She just showed up. I was already back from Sydney, sitting in my study when I heard the garage code fail 3 times. Then the front door opening. Her key still worked for now. Dylan. Her voice echoed through the house, uncertain in a way I'd never heard before. I didn't answer, just waited. She found me in the study, looking exactly like someone who'd spent a week in a luxury cabin should look. Tanned, rested, wearing clothes I'd never seen before. Expensive clothes. We need to talk, she said. I gestured to the chair across from my desk, the same one Maya had sat in 2 weeks ago. Stephanie sat slowly, her eyes scanning the room. The family photos were gone, replaced with law books and framed certificates. My diplomas. Awards from cases I'd won. Where's Maya? She asked. With Claire. In Georgetown. You sent her away. I sent her somewhere stable. I corrected. This house is about to get complicated. She leaned forward, hands clasped. Dylan, Richard called me. My lawyer. He said things about the house, about our accounts. He said you've been moving assets around. I haven't moved anything. I've simply claimed what was always mine. Her face flushed. That's not how marriage works. Isn't it? Because that's exactly how you treated our marriage when you accepted a job transfer on my behalf without asking. When you told Blake I wasn't his real father. When you decided my career and my life were yours to manage. I was trying to help you. You've been stalling on that Sydney position for years. Because I thought we had a life here worth preserving, I said. Turns out I was wrong. She stood abruptly. Fine. You're angry. I get it. But you can't just lock me out of everything we built together. Together. I opened a drawer and pulled out a folder. Thick, organized, tabs color-coded. Let me show you what we built together. I slid it across the desk. She opened it hesitantly. That's the house, I said. Purchased in 2011 with money from a trust my grandmother left me. Paid in full in 2019 using dividends from investments I made before we met. You never contributed a single dollar to the principal or the property taxes. I pulled out another document. This is the Range Rover. Corporate lease through my firm. Your name appears nowhere on the contract. Another document. Joint checking account. Funded entirely by my salary. Your interior design business has generated exactly $12,000 in revenue over 14 years. Total. She was staring at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. You signed a post-nuptial agreement in 2016, I continued. Do you remember that? You said it was to protect your daughters. It was. From exactly this situation. You waived all rights to any property purchased with my premarital assets. You signed it, Stephanie. You notarized it. You can't claim you didn't know. Because I trusted you. No, I said quietly. Because you didn't care enough to read what you were signing. Just like you didn't care enough to ask before rearranging my entire career. Just like you didn't care that Blake calling his biological father real family would gut the man who raised him. She sank back into the chair, face pale. What do you want from me? She whispered. Nothing, I said. I want nothing from you, Stephanie. I want you to leave. This is my house. No, it's not. You have 10 days to remove your personal belongings. After that, anything left will be donated. You can't do this. I leaned back in my chair. I already have. Blake called me on January 4th. I was in the middle of a conference call with the Sydney office, finalizing my start date. I let go to voicemail. He called again an hour later. Then again. On the fourth call, I answered. What is it, Blake? Silence on the other end. Then his voice, smaller than I'd heard it in years. My scholarship got canceled. I felt my stomach drop despite myself. What happened? I don't know. The coach called yesterday. Said there were some issues with my paperwork. Something about my guardian signatures not being valid anymore. I closed my eyes. The scholarship applications. I'd signed as his legal guardian, filed the FAFSA as his parent, listed him as my dependent for tax purposes. All of that was changing now. Blake, I'm not your legal guardian anymore. I filed papers last week to terminate the arrangement. You're 18 in 3 months. Your mother can sign as your parent, or your biological father can. My dad doesn't want to. He said college is a scam anyway. And Mom is freaking out about money. She can't afford to pay for anything. That's unfortunate. A pause. That's it. That's all you're going to say. What do you want me to say, Blake? That I'll fix this? That I'll keep pretending to be your father while you spend holidays with the real one? I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. You sat at that table and didn't say a word when your mother told me I wasn't family. You went to Colorado without a second thought. You made your choice. Because he's my dad. Biologically, yes. But I'm the one who taught you to throw. I'm the one who drove you to every practice, every game. I'm the one who stayed up until 2 a.m. helping you write your college essays. And Blake, I'm the one who paid for the private coaching that got you recruited in the first place. $15,000 over 3 years. Silence. Your real father can pay for college, I said. Or you can take out loans like millions of other students. Or you can get a job. But Blake, I'm done being convenient. Please, he said, and his voice split. I'm sorry. I didn't know she was going to say all that. I didn't know you'd leave. I didn't leave. I was pushed out. There's a difference. Can we talk? In person. I thought about it. About the kid who used to fall asleep on my shoulder during car rides home from games. About teaching him to drive. Watching him grow from a small boy into someone headed for Division I football. No, I said. We can't. Why not? Because you need to learn something, Blake. You don't get to have it both ways. You don't get to chase the fantasy of your biological father and keep me as the backup plan. You made a choice. Live with it. I hung up before he could respond. Maya called me 10 minutes later. Dad, Blake just called me crying. I know. He lost his scholarship. I know that too. Are you going to help him? I stared out my office window at the Denver skyline. Snow was starting to fall, soft and relentless. No, I said. Dad, he's just a kid. He made a mistake. He's 18 years old. Old enough to choose his father. Old enough to live with the consequences. That's harsh. That's reality, sweetheart. I spent 12 years being his father. Your mother spent 12 years letting me. And the moment it became inconvenient, they both decided I was expendable. So now, Blake gets to find out what life looks like without me in it. Maya was quiet for a long moment. I'm proud of you, she finally said. For what? For not letting them walk all over you anymore. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my office and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness. Not satisfaction. Just the quiet certainty that I'd done the right thing. Maya's high school held its winter award ceremony on January 10th. Academic honors, athletic achievements, the kind of event that usually filled the auditorium with proud parents holding phones to record every moment. I flew back from Sydney specifically for it. Maya had been nominated for the Principal's Excellence Award, the highest honor a junior could receive. Stephanie showed up too. I saw her from across the auditorium, sitting 3 rows from the front, wearing the pearl necklace I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary. She looked composed, put together, like the last 2 weeks hadn't happened. Blake wasn't with her. The ceremony proceeded through various categories. Basketball MVP, debate team captain, national merit semifinalists. Then they called Maya's name. She walked to the stage in a navy dress Claire had helped her pick out, shoulders back, confident. The principal handed her the award and asked if she wanted to say a few words. Maya took the microphone. "I want to thank my teachers for pushing me to do better," she began. "My sister Claire for helping me with my college applications. And my dad for showing me what it means to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard." She looked directly at me. Not at Stephanie. At me. "My dad taught me that love isn't just about showing up," Maya continued. "It's about being honest. About having integrity. About not letting people treat you like you're replaceable. So thank you, Dad, for everything." The applause was thunderous. I stood, along with most of the auditorium. When I glanced over, Stephanie was sitting perfectly still, face pale, hands gripped tight in her lap. After the ceremony, parents flooded the lobby for refreshments and photos. Maya found me near the coffee table. "You didn't have to do that," I said, pulling her into a hug. "Yes, I did. Mom's been texting me nonstop, saying you're being cruel, that you're tearing the family apart. I wanted everyone to know whose side I'm on." "There don't have to be sides, sweetheart." "Yeah, there do. She made them when she decided you weren't good enough." Over Maya's shoulder, I saw Stephanie approaching. She looked smaller somehow, less certain than the woman who'd announced her Aspen trip like it was a done deal. "Dylan, can we talk?" she asked. "Not here. Please. Just 5 minutes." Maya squeezed my hand and walked away to join some friends. I turned to face my wife fully. "What is it, Stephanie?" "Blake called me yesterday. He's devastated about the scholarship." "I imagine he is. Can't you do something? Call the coach. Explain that it was a misunderstanding." "It wasn't a misunderstanding. I terminated my legal guardianship. I'm no longer responsible for him in any official capacity. The scholarship required a parental signature. His mother can provide that. Or his real father can." She flinched at the emphasis. "His father won't. He says college is a waste of money. Then Blake can take out student loans. Get a part-time job. There are options. He shouldn't have to struggle because you're angry at me." I looked at her carefully. "Blake isn't struggling because I'm angry. He's struggling because actions have consequences. You wanted him to know his real father. Congratulations. Now his real father gets to be responsible. That's not fair to Blake." "What's not fair," I said quietly, "is spending 12 years raising a boy, loving him like he was mine, paying for everything from braces to football camps, only be told I'm not real family. What's not fair is being erased the moment something shinier came along." Stephanie's eyes filled with tears. Real ones this time. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "Yes, you did. Can we fix this? Go to counseling? Figure out how to move forward?" I thought about that. About the years we'd spent building a life together. About the moments that had been good before they turned sour. "No," I said. "We can't. Because, Stephanie, this isn't about one mistake. It's about a pattern. About you making decisions that affect my life without consulting me. About you treating me like I'm convenient until I'm not. I love you. Maybe you do. But you don't respect me. And I can't live with someone who doesn't respect me." She reached for my hand. I pulled away. "The divorce papers will be filed next week," I said. "Your attorney already has the details. I suggest you read them this time." I walked away before she could respond, found Maya waiting by the exit, and we left together. In the car, my daughter was quiet for a long time. "Do you still love her?" she finally asked. I thought about it. About the woman I'd married 14 years ago, the one who'd seemed kind and warm and ready to build something together. "I love who I thought she was," I said. "But that person doesn't exist anymore. Maybe she never did." Maya nodded slowly. "Good. Because you deserve better, Dad. So do you, sweetheart." We drove home in comfortable silence, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Stephanie called me on January 15th, voice tight with panic. "Dylan, something's wrong with my credit cards. All of them are declining." I was in a meeting with my Sydney transition team. I stepped into the hallway. "That's because I removed you as an authorized user from all my accounts." "You what?" "You were never a primary cardholder, Stephanie. You were authorized to use my cards. I revoked that authorization last week." Silence. Then, quieter. "I can't even buy groceries." "You have your own bank account. The one with the $12,000 from your interior design business. That's not enough to live on. Then I suggest you get a job. A real one." "Dylan, please. I know you're angry, but you can't just cut me off completely." "I'm not cutting you off. I'm simply removing access to money that was never yours to begin with. There's a difference. This is financial abuse. I almost laughed. No, Stephanie. Financial abuse will be controlling money you earned. This is me protecting money I earned from someone who's been spending it without my consent. Did you think I didn't notice the $8,000 charge at that boutique in Aspen? Or the $1,500 dinner at that restaurant? She didn't answer. You've been living beyond your means for years, I continued. My means? That stops now. What am I supposed to do? Figure it out. You're a 46-year-old woman with a college degree. Get a job. Apply for your own credit card. Build your own financial life. No one will approve me. My credit score is tied to yours. Actually, it's not anymore. I had our credit histories separated last week. Your score is now based entirely on your own financial behavior, which, as it turns out, isn't great. I could hear her breathing, sharp and uneven. I checked, I said. Your score dropped from 780 to 520 in 1 week. That's what happens when all your positive credit history was actually mine. You planned this. All of it. I prepared for this. There's a difference. You made the choices, Stephanie. I just made sure there was a record of them. I hate you. That's fine. You can hate me from whatever apartment you can afford on your own. You have 2 weeks left to move out. I hung up and returned to my meeting. That evening, Claire called. Dad, I need to tell you something. About Mom's jewelry. What about it? She tried to sell it today. The diamond earrings you gave her for Christmas 3 years ago. The sapphire bracelet from your anniversary. She took them to a jeweler in Georgetown. And they're not real. Well, they are, but they're not worth what she thought. The jeweler said they're good quality cubic zirconia and lab-created stones. Worth maybe $200 total. I smiled despite myself. I know. You knew. I replaced the real stones 2 years ago when I first noticed her pulling away. The real jewelry is in a safety deposit box. For you and Maya. Claire laughed, sharp and surprised. Dad, that's savage. That's prepared. She must have freaked out. I imagine so. Though I'm sure her lawyer already told her she has no claim to them anyway. Because of the post-nup? Exactly. Any gifts given during the marriage revert to the giver in the event of divorce if they were purchased with premarital funds, which all of them were. My daughter was quiet for a moment. You really thought of everything, didn't you? I had a lot of time to think while she was busy with Richard the business coach. Do you feel bad about any of this? I consider the question honestly. No. I feel relieved. Like I finally stopped carrying a weight I didn't realize was crushing me. Good, Claire said firmly. She deserves everything she's getting. After we hung up, I poured myself a whiskey and sat in my study. On my desk was a photo of Blake from 5 years ago, holding his first football trophy. I'd coached that team, taught those boys to work together, to trust each other. I picked up the photo and put it in a drawer, not throwing it away, just putting it somewhere I wouldn't have to look at it every day. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes respect matters more, and I was done settling for anything less. The divorce was finalized on February 14th, Valentine's Day. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. We met in a conference room downtown, attorneys on both sides, documents spread across a mahogany table that probably cost more than Stephanie's new apartment. She looked different, thinner, older somehow, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of the elaborate style she used to favor. Clothes from Target instead of Nordstrom. Her attorney, Richard Paulson, did most of the talking. My client is requesting spousal support, he began. Given the length of the marriage and her current financial situation, my attorney, Sarah Winters, didn't even look up from her notes. Denied. The postnuptial agreement signed in 2016 explicitly waives all spousal support claims. Your client had independent legal counsel review that document before signing. She was under duress. She was in a Starbucks at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. We have the notary's testimony. No duress. Richard tried again. Then we're requesting division of marital assets acquired during the marriage. Sarah slid a document across the table. All assets were purchased with funds traceable to Mr. Hartwell's premarital accounts or inheritance. Per the postnup, your client has no claim. I watched Stephanie's face as the reality settled in. 14 years of marriage, and she was walking away with exactly what she'd brought into it. Nothing. What about the house? Richard asked, desperation creeping into his voice. Transferred to a trust on December 24th. Mrs. Hartwell signed the trust documents in 2019. She has no claim. The cars, corporate leases, not marital property. The retirement accounts, premarital contributions with documented growth, protected under the agreement. Richard sat back, defeated. Stephanie stared at the table, silent. Is there anything my client is entitled to? Richard finally asked. Sarah consulted her notes, her personal belongings, her vehicle, once she secures her own insurance and registration, and the $12,000 currently in her business account. Stephanie's voice came out small and broken. That's it, Sarah confirmed. Stephanie looked at me for the first time since we'd sat down. You really planned this? All of it? For years? I protected myself, I said quietly, from exactly this scenario. The scenario where you decided I was disposable. I never said that. You didn't have to. You showed me every time you made decisions about my life without asking. Every time you chose something else over our marriage. Every time you treated me like I was too weak to fight back. Her eyes filled with tears. I loved you. Maybe. But you didn't respect me. And Stephanie, I needed both. Richard cleared his throat. Mr. Hartwell, my client would like to request one thing. Not legally, but as a courtesy. Blake's college situation. If you could see your way to... No, I said. Blake has a father. He chose to reconnect with him. His father can handle his education. His father won't. Then Blake will figure it out like millions of other students. Student loans. Part-time work. He's resourceful. He'll manage. Stephanie's voice shook. He was your son for 12 years. And you made it very clear he wasn't my real son. So his real father can be responsible now. She looked away, crying silently. Sarah handed me a pen. Mr. Hartwell, if you'll sign here. Mrs. Hartwell here. This finalizes everything. I signed without hesitation. Stephanie's hand trembled as she signed her name. That's it then, Richard said quietly. You're divorced. I stood. Sarah, make sure Mrs. Hartwell receives copies of all the documents. Already arranged. I looked at Stephanie one last time. I hope you find whatever it was you were looking for. I really do. Then I walked out of the conference room and didn't look back. In the elevator, Sarah turned to me. That was one of the cleanest divorces I've ever handled. You really did think of everything. I had a good teacher. My first divorce attorney taught me to document everything and trust no one. Your first wife died. But before that, we had some rough patches. I learned my lesson then. The elevator doors opened to the lobby. Outside, February sun was breaking through the clouds. What's next for you? Sarah asked. Sydney, my daughter's. A life that's actually mine. Sounds like a good plan. I walked out into the Denver afternoon, pulled out my phone, and called Claire. It's done, I said when she answered. How do you feel? I thought about it. About the man I'd been 6 months ago, tolerating disrespect because confrontation seemed hard. About the man I was now, standing in the sunshine with a future that belonged entirely to me. Free, I said. I feel free. 4 months later, I stood in my new office in Sydney, 43rd floor, overlooking the harbor. The opera house gleamed white in the afternoon sun. Ferries crisscrossed the water like patient insects. Maya was enrolled at an international school, already making friends and complaining about the Australian accent being confusing. Claire had applied for a semester abroad program in Melbourne, studying comparative international law. My phone buzzed. A text from Blake. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know I got into community college. Working part-time at a warehouse to pay for it. Football's done, but that's okay. I'm figuring it out. I'm sorry for everything. I understand if you never want to talk to me again. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let him experience the full weight of his choices. But the larger part, the part that had spent 12 years teaching him to throw a spiral and helping him with homework, couldn't completely let go. I typed back, proud of you for taking responsibility. Keep me updated on how classes go. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just acknowledgement that he was trying. Maya appeared in my office doorway, backpack slung over one shoulder. Ready to go, Dad? You promised we'd check out that beach you keep talking about. Bondi. Yeah, that one. I grabbed my jacket. Let's go. In the elevator, she leaned against me. Do you miss Denver? Sometimes, but not as much as I thought I would. Do you miss Mom? I consider the question honestly. I miss who I thought she was. But that person either never existed or stopped existing a long time ago. That's sad. Maybe. But it's also honest. And sometimes honesty is more important than nostalgia. We walked out into the Sydney afternoon, the sun warm on our faces, the smell of salt air mixing with city exhaust. Dad, Maya said as we headed toward my car. Yeah. Thanks for not being weak. For showing me that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. I pulled her into a side hug. You never have to thank me for that, sweetheart. But you're welcome. That evening, I sat on the balcony of my apartment, overlooking the harbor, drinking coffee that was too expensive but somehow worth it. My phone rang. Claire, calling from Georgetown. Just want to check in, she said. Make sure you're surviving down under. More than surviving. Thriving. Good. You deserve it, Dad. After everything. So do you and Maya. Speaking of which, I transferred the education funds. You're both fully covered through graduate school if you want it. The money Mom tried to claim? The same. It was always for you girls. Now it's protected in a trust she can never touch. What about Stephanie? What's she doing now? Last I heard, she's working retail. Living in a one-bedroom apartment. Blake's staying with his biological father, but that's apparently not going well. Do you feel bad? I watched the lights reflecting off the harbor water, the city alive and indifferent to small human dramas. No, I said. I feel relieved. Like I finally stopped carrying weight that was never mine to bear. That's good, Dad. That's really good. After we hung up, I sat in the silence and thought about the man I'd been a year ago. The one who accepted disrespect because it seemed easier than demanding better. That man was gone, replaced by someone who understood a simple truth. You teach people how to treat you. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is refuse to accept anything less than respect. My phone buzzed one more time. An email from Sarah Winters, my divorce attorney. Dylan, thought you want to know. Stephanie filed for bankruptcy last week. Richard says she's struggling but learning. Wanted to pass it along. Hope Sydney is treating you well. I read it twice, then deleted it. Her struggles weren't my concern anymore. My daughters were. My career was. My future was. I raised my coffee cup to the Sydney skyline, to new beginnings and hard-won peace. Some stories don't end with reconciliation. Some end with boundaries, with self-respect, with the quiet knowledge that you did the right thing even when it hurt. This was one of those stories, and I was finally completely at peace with that.
That was one story, but this next one is a little different. Now, let's get into another story.
At our anniversary party, I stood before everyone and said, "We've been married 19.5 years. My wife corrected me. No, 20. I looked her in the eye and replied, "No, sweetheart. Our marriage ended 6 months ago." What I revealed next destroyed her world, and she deserved it. My name is Elliot Chambers. I'm 49 years old, and I run Industrial Solutions Corp., a manufacturing company I built from absolutely nothing over the past 18 years. We design and produce industrial equipment for factories across the Midwest. Started in a rented warehouse in Chicago with 2 employees and a dream. Now we have 120 people on payroll and clients in 15 states. Last month, we filed for an IPO valued at $48 million. Everything I touched seemed to turn to gold. Everything except my marriage. Our 20th anniversary party was Claire's idea, naturally. She wanted something big, something memorable, something that would cement her status as the wife of a successful man. She invited 150 people to the Grand Meridian Hotel in downtown Chicago. Our friends, our business associates, her family, mine. The ballroom was decorated with white roses and gold ribbons that probably cost more than my first car. A string quartet played classical music in the corner. Champagne flowed like water. The whole thing screamed wealth and success. I stood at the front of the room with a microphone in my hand, looking out at all those smiling faces. People who thought they knew us. People who thought we were the perfect couple. Claire stood beside me in a red dress that cost $3,000. She looked stunning, radiant, glowing. She was playing the part of the devoted wife to absolute perfection. Our son Liam, 24 years old, sat at a table near the front with his girlfriend Sophie. He looked proud of us. Happy. He had absolutely no idea what was about to happen. None of them did. I raised my glass, and the room gradually quieted down. Conversations faded. People turned to look at us. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I said, my voice steady and calm. Years of presenting to boardrooms had taught me how to project confidence, even when my insides were churning. Claire and I are truly grateful to have so many wonderful people in our lives. Claire smiled that perfect smile of hers and slipped her hand into mine. Her grip was warm, familiar, comforting. It was also a complete lie, just like everything else about her. Tonight, I continued, we're celebrating a milestone. Claire and I have been married for 19.5 years. The room stayed quiet, but I saw a few confused glances exchanged. A couple near the bar frowned. Claire's smile faltered just slightly, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. Her hand squeezed mine a little tighter, a silent warning to correct myself. No, sweetheart, she said, her voice light and playful, but with an unmistakable edge of nervousness underneath. It's been 20 years. You're terrible with dates. A few people chuckled politely. They thought I had made an honest mistake. They thought this was just an embarrassing moment for a husband who couldn't remember his own anniversary. I turned to look at her directly. I let the silence stretch out for just a moment too long. Then I smiled, but there was nothing warm about it. No, Claire, I said calmly, clearly, making sure every single person in that ballroom could hear me. Our marriage ended 6 months ago. The room didn't just go quiet. It went absolutely dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop on that marble floor. Claire's face froze. Her entire body went rigid beside me. Her hand went limp in mine. I could practically see her brain working overtime, scrambling desperately, trying to figure out if this was some kind of joke, some poorly timed bit of humor that I would laugh off in a second. But I wasn't smiling anymore. What are you talking about? She whispered, but the microphone picked it up perfectly and broadcast it to everyone. I pulled my hand away from hers and turned back to the crowd. 6 months ago, I said, my voice carrying across the entire ballroom, I found out my wife was cheating on me. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. Someone near the back actually stood up from their chair. A woman I recognized from Claire's book club covered her mouth with both hands. The string quartet stopped playing mid-note. Claire grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks. Elliot, you need to stop this right now, she hissed through clenched teeth, still trying to maintain some shred of composure. You're drunk. You're embarrassing yourself. I pulled my arm free and took a step away from her. I haven't touched a drop tonight, Claire. I wanted to remember every second of this. I turned back to the microphone and the sea of shocked faces staring at us. Some looked horrified. Some looked uncomfortable. And some, if I'm being honest, looked absolutely thrilled at the prospect of witnessing this level of drama unfold in real time. I know what you're all thinking, I said calmly. You're thinking maybe this is some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe I'm overreacting to something innocent. Maybe I'm just a paranoid husband who saw his wife talking to another man and jumped to conclusions. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my phone. I thought the same thing at first. When I noticed she was coming home late. When I saw the credit card charges at hotels I'd never been to. When I found the second cell phone hidden in her gym bag. Claire's face went white, absolutely pale. She took a stumbling step backward. But I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I continued. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You trust them. You believe them when they look you in the eye and tell you everything is fine. I looked directly at my son. Liam was staring at me with his mouth slightly open, confusion and dawning horror written all across his face. This was going to hurt him, and I hated that. But he deserved to know the truth about who his mother really was. Then I installed cameras. I said simply. The room erupted. Not with gas this time, but with actual voices. People talking over each other, asking questions, some supporting me, some condemning me for invading privacy. I let them talk for a few seconds, then raised my hand for silence. I installed cameras in our lake cabin. I clarified. The cabin that's in my name. The cabin I bought with my money before we were even married. That cabin. Claire was shaking her head now, backing away from me slowly. No, you're lying. You're making this up. Am I? I held up my phone. Should I show them? Don't you dare, she snarled. And there it was. The real Claire. Not the polished, sophisticated woman who ran charity galas and smiled for the cameras. This was the woman who had been lying to my face for God knows how long. I looked out at the crowd and spotted him. Ryan Porter, 45 years old, divorced, and sitting at a table near the back with some of our mutual business acquaintances. He was frozen in his seat, his face the color of old newspaper. "Ryan," I said into the microphone. "Why don't you come up here?" Ryan didn't move. Didn't even blink. "Come on, buddy," I said, my voice carrying an edge now. "Don't be shy. Everyone's going to find out anyway." The people at his table turned to look at him. Someone asked him something I couldn't hear. Ryan pushed back from the table and stood up, but he didn't come toward the stage. He headed for the exit, running away. I called after him. "That's what you do best, isn't it?" He stopped, turned around. For a second, I thought he might actually have the guts to say something, but then he just shook his head and kept walking toward the door. Claire suddenly lunged forward and grabbed the microphone from my hand. "Stop it," she screamed. Her voice was shrill, desperate, nothing like the controlled, elegant tone she usually used. "Just stop talking." I let her have the microphone. I didn't need it anymore. Because right then, walking through the crowd with the confidence of someone who had nothing to hide, was Alexandria Kane. 40 years old, one of the best divorce attorneys in Chicago, and for the past 4 months, someone I've been getting to know very well. She was wearing navy blue dress and carrying a leather portfolio. She walked right up to the stage, stepped up beside me, and smiled at the crowd. "Good evening, everyone," Alexandria said smoothly. "My name is Alexandria Kane, and I'm Mr. Chambers' attorney." Claire's eyes went wide, then wider. Then she looked at me with something that might have been betrayal, if she had any right to that emotion. "You brought your lawyer to our anniversary party," she whispered. "Our divorce party," I corrected. "And she's not just my lawyer, Claire." Alexandria slipped her hand into mine. "She's also my girlfriend." The ballroom erupted into chaos. People were standing now, talking loudly, pointing at us. Claire looked like she'd been slapped. Her eyes darted between Alexandria and me, her mouth opening and closing, but no words coming out. "You," she finally managed. "You were cheating on me." I almost laughed. Almost. That's rich coming from you. But no, Claire. Alexandria and I didn't start seeing each other until after I found out about you and Ryan. After I'd already made the decision to end this marriage. I just waited for the right moment to make it public. Claire's face twisted with rage. "You planned this. You planned all of this." "Every detail," I confirmed. "For 6 months." Liam stood up from his table. His face was red, his fists clenched at his sides. "Dad, what the hell is going on? You're embarrassing Mom in front of everyone." My son's words stung, but I'd expected this. Claire had always been good at playing the victim, especially with Liam. "Son, I know this is hard to hear, but your mother has been lying to all of us," Alexandria interrupted smoothly, opening her portfolio. "And we have proof." Claire lunged forward. "Don't you dare." Alexandria didn't flinch. She pulled out a tablet and handed it to me. "Mr. Chambers installed a security system at the family cabin on Lake Geneva 6 months ago. The footage is quite revealing." I held up the tablet so the crowd could see I had it, but I didn't play anything yet. "Claire, do you want to tell everyone the truth? Or should I show them?" Her eyes were wild now, desperate. She looked around the room like she was searching for an escape route. Then her gaze landed on someone in the crowd, and her expression changed. Hardened. "Jason," she called out. "Jason, tell them this is insane." My younger brother Jason, 42 years old and currently working as a project manager at my company, was standing near the bar. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I turned to look at him. Really look at him. "Yeah, Jason. Why don't you tell everyone what you know?" Jason's face went pale. He shook his head slightly. "Elliot, man, I don't." "Go ahead," I said, my voice hard as steel. "Tell them how you know Ryan. Tell them about the texts I found on Claire's phone." The room went silent again. Everyone was staring at Jason now. Claire took a step back. "No, Elliot, don't." But I was done protecting anyone's feelings. I pressed play on the tablet. The screen showed the interior of our cabin, the living room with its stone fireplace and leather couches. The timestamp read 4 months ago. Claire appeared on screen, and she wasn't alone. But it wasn't Ryan with her. It was Jason. The crowd gasped. Someone shouted. Liam made a strangled sound. The video showed them kissing, hands roaming, my wife and my brother in my cabin, on my couch, in my life. I stopped the video. I couldn't watch anymore, even though I'd seen it a dozen times already. "My own brother," I said quietly into the microphone. 7 years ago, when Jason was going through his divorce and needed a place to stay, we took him in, gave him a job, helped him get back on his feet. Jason was backing toward the exit now. "Elliot, I'm sorry. I never meant." Get out, I said. My voice was calm, but the fury underneath, it was unmistakable. Get out of this party. Get out of my company. Get out of my life. Jason turned and practically ran for the door. The silence that followed Jason's exit was deafening. I could see people pulling out their phones, probably already texting friends who weren't here, spreading the news. This would be all over Chicago by morning. Claire was standing alone now, isolated in the center of the stage like a defendant at trial. Her carefully constructed world was collapsing around her, and she knew it. But I wasn't done yet. There's more, I said, looking out at the crowd. My eyes found Andrea Foster, 44 years old, sitting at a table with some of Claire's other friends. She was watching everything with an expression I couldn't quite read. Andrea, I said. Dr. Andrea Foster. You're Claire's therapist, right? Andrea's face went white. She didn't answer. Actually, Alexandria interjected, pulling another document from her portfolio. Dr. Foster has been Mrs. Chambers' personal therapist for the past 5 years. Isn't that right, doctor? Andrea stood slowly. I'm not at liberty to discuss my patients. Of course not, I said. Doctor-patient confidentiality. Very important. Except when the therapist is actively helping the patient deceive her husband. Andrea's mouth opened. That's not. I would never. Alexandria held up a stack of printed emails. We obtained these through legal discovery. Text messages between Dr. Foster and Mrs. Chambers. Messages where Dr. Foster provided advice on how to hide an affair, how to manipulate guilt responses, how to gaslight a suspicious spouse. The crowd erupted again. Several people were shouting now, expressing their disgust. A woman near the front stood up and pointed at Andrea. You should lose your license. Andrea looked like she might be sick. Those were taken out of context. I was trying to help Claire navigate. Navigate an affair? I asked. That's not therapy, Andrea. That's conspiracy. Claire grabbed my arm again. Stop it. Just stop. You've made your point. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then back up at her face. Have I? Because I'm not sure everyone understands yet just how deep your deception goes. I turned to Liam, who was still standing by his table, looking shell-shocked. Son, there's something else you need to know. Liam shook his head. Dad, I can't handle anymore. I know, and I'm sorry, but you deserve the truth. I took a breath. 3 months ago, your mother told me you were doing great in your graduate program at Northwestern. She showed me your progress reports, your grades, everything. Liam's face changed. Guilt flashed across it. Except you weren't in graduate school, were you? I continued. You were kicked out of Northwestern 6 months ago for academic dishonesty. And your mother knew. She covered it up, paid off your debts, and helped you lie to me about it. Liam looked at Claire, betrayal written all over his face. Mom, you said you were going to tell him. You promised. Claire's voice was desperate now. I was protecting you. I didn't want him to be disappointed in you. No, I said firmly. You were protecting yourself. You were using our son's mistakes to keep him dependent on you, to keep him on your side when all of this came out. You were preparing him to be your ally against me. I looked back at Liam. Your mother didn't believe in you enough to let you face the consequences and grow from them. She wanted to keep you weak so you'd need her. The room was spinning out of control now. People were shouting, some at Claire, some at Andrea, some just shouting into the chaos. Claire's friends were backing away from her, like she had a contagious disease. Andrea had already slipped out through a side door, probably calling her lawyer. But I had one more bomb to drop. The biggest one. I looked at Liam, who was still standing by his table, his face a mask of confusion and hurt. My son, the boy I'd raised, taught to ride a bike, helped with homework, coached in Little League. The young man I've been so proud of. Liam, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. Come up here, son. He shook his head. Dad, I can't take anymore. Please. I know this is hard, but you need to hear this. Everyone needs to hear this. Liam walked toward the stage slowly, reluctantly. When he reached me, I put my hand on his shoulder. He flinched but didn't pull away. 3 weeks ago, I said into the microphone, your mother told me something that stopped my heart. She said she was pregnant. The crowd gasped. Claire's face went absolutely white. She was thrilled. I continued. She said it was a miracle. After all these years, we were going to have another child. She'd already told her friends, her parents, everyone. She was glowing with joy. I paused, letting the moment build. There was just one problem. I reached into my jacket pocket, and pulled out a medical document. 8 months ago, after I first started suspecting the affair, I had a vasectomy. It's medically impossible for me to father a child. The room exploded. People were standing, shouting, pointing. Liam's mouth fell open. He looked at his mother with absolute horror. You what? Claire's voice was barely a whisper. I got a vasectomy, I repeated. And I didn't tell you. Just like you didn't tell me about Ryan. Or Jason. Or whoever else you've been sleeping with. Claire stumbled backward, grabbing onto a chair to steady herself. No, that's not. I can't be. Oh, you're pregnant, all right, Alexandria said, holding up another document. We have the medical records to prove it. The question is, whose baby is it? Ryan's? Jason's? Someone else we don't even know about yet. Liam was staring at me now, his eyes wide. Dad, if you had a vasectomy 8 months ago, then that means... It means I wanted to be sure, I said quietly. About everything. I turned to face Liam directly, blocking out everyone else. Son, I need you to know something. When your mother told me she was pregnant, my first thought wasn't about her. It was about you. It was about whether everything I believed about our family was a lie. Liam's voice faltered. What are you saying? I'm saying I had a DNA test done. You and me. I held up another document. The results came back 3 days ago. The entire ballroom went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. You're my son, I said, letting relief show in my voice. Biologically, genetically, in every way that matters. You're mine. Liam's eyes filled with tears. You thought Mom might have. I had to know, I said. She'd been lying to me for so long, about so many things. I had to be certain about you. Liam looked at his mother, and the betrayal in his eyes was devastating. How could you do this to us? How could you make Dad doubt whether I was even his son? Claire reached out toward him. Baby, I never meant. Don't, Liam said, stepping back. Don't call me that. Don't touch me. He turned back to me. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry I defended her. I should have listened to you. I pulled him into a hug. He was shaking. It's okay, son. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Over Liam's shoulder, I could see Claire collapsing into a chair, her perfect facade completely shattered. Her parents were standing now, walking toward the exit without even looking at her. Her friends had all but abandoned her. She was alone, exactly as she deserved to be. After Liam stepped away, wiping his eyes, I turned back to face the crowd. Most of Claire's friends had already left. The people remaining were mostly my business associates, a few family members, and the ones who were too fascinated by the drama to leave. Alexandria opened her portfolio again. She'd been quiet for a few minutes, letting me have my moment with Liam, but now she was all business. There's one more thing everyone should know, Alexandria said. Mrs. Chambers isn't just an unfaithful wife. She's also a thief. Claire's head snapped up. What? I never stole anything. Really? I pulled out my phone and brought up a bank statement. Then how do you explain the $470,000 that's missing from various accounts? The remaining crowd leaned forward, listening intently. My father, I said, my voice tight with anger, passed away 14 months ago. Before he died, he set up a trust fund for Liam. $2.3 million, meant to secure our son's future. I looked at Liam. Your mother couldn't touch that trust directly. It was ironclad, but there were other accounts. My father had set aside money for his own final medical expenses, about $180,000. After he passed, there was $47,000 left. I want to donate it to cancer research in his memory. I turned to glare at Claire, but that money disappeared. All of it, and I found out where it went. Alexandria pulled out credit card statements and bank records. Cosmetic surgery, $72,000. A trip to Italy with Ryan Porter, $38,000. Designer clothes, jewelry, spa treatments. The rest. Claire was shaking her head frantically. I was going to pay it back. I just needed. You stole from a dead man, I said, my voice like ice. From my father, the man who welcomed you into our family, who treated you like his own daughter. You stole money that was meant to honor his memory and used it to fund your affairs. Even the people who might have sympathized with Claire looked disgusted now. Stealing from the deceased was a bridge too far. And that's not all, Alexandria continued. Industrial Solutions Corp is about to go public. The IPO values the company at $48 million. Mr. Chambers owns 85% of the company. That's roughly $40 million. She paused for effect. Fortunately for Mr. Chambers, he and Mrs. Chambers signed a prenuptial agreement before they married. A very thorough prenuptial agreement that states clearly that in the event of divorce due to infidelity, the unfaithful party receives nothing. No alimony. No assets. Nothing. Claire's face was the color of old newspaper. No, that can't be right. I own half of everything we built together. You own nothing, I said flatly. The house is in my name. The cars are in my name. The cabin where I caught you with my brother is in my name. The company is mine. All of it. We've been married for 20 years. Claire screamed. You can't just throw me out with nothing. Watch me, I said. You'll get exactly what you deserve. Which is nothing. Alexandria pulled out yet another document. We'll be filing for divorce first thing Monday morning. We have documentation of multiple affairs, financial fraud, and conspiracy with a licensed therapist to deceive her husband. No judge in Illinois will give you a dime. Claire looked around the room desperately, searching for someone, anyone who might help her. But there was no one left. Even Andrea had abandoned her. This isn't over, Claire said, her voice shaking with rage. I'll fight you. I'll take everything. Good luck with that, I said. Because in 3 months, when the IPO goes through, I'll be worth millions. And you'll be working at a Walmart trying to afford rent. The party was essentially over now. The catering staff had stopped serving. The string quartet had packed up their instruments. And the remaining guests were gathered in small clusters, whispering and watching the ongoing destruction of Claire's life with morbid fascination. But I had one more revelation to share. One more secret to expose. There's someone else here tonight who knows more about my wife's extracurricular activities than they've let on, I said into the microphone. My eyes scanned the room until I found her. Brittany Hayes, 35 years old, athletic build, standing near the bar looking like she desperately wanted to disappear. Brittany, I called out. Why don't you join us up here? Brittany's face went pale. She shook her head. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? I pulled out my phone and held it up. Then you won't mind if I read some of these text messages out loud. The ones between you and my wife. Claire lunged at me. Don't you dare. Elliot, please don't do this. I stepped back, keeping the phone out of her reach. Why not, Claire? Afraid people will find out that Ryan and Jason weren't your only affairs? That you were also sleeping with your personal trainer? The remaining crowd gasped. Brittany started backing toward the exit. See, the interesting thing about Brittany, I continued, is that Claire paid her $32,000 over the past 6 months. I thought it was for her personal training sessions at first. Very expensive personal training sessions. Alexandria pulled out bank statements. But then we looked at the text messages. Messages where Mrs. Chambers discussed leaving her husband. Where she talked about starting a new life with Brittany. Where she promised that once the divorce went through and she got her settlement, they'd move away together. Leah made a sound of disgust. Mom, what the hell? Claire was shaking her head frantically. It wasn't like that. Brittany was just helping me through a difficult time. We were friends. Friends who shared hotel rooms. I asked. Friends who went on romantic weekends to Lake Tahoe while I was at business conferences. Friends who discussed moving to California together. I turned to Brittany. Tell them the truth. Tell them about the condo you and Claire were planning to buy in San Francisco. The one she promised to pay for with my money. Brittany's composure shattered. I didn't know she was lying to you about everything else. She told me you two had an arrangement. She said you didn't care what she did. An arrangement. I repeated flatly. Is that what she told you? That I was fine with my wife sleeping with half of Chicago. She said the marriage was over in everything but name. Brittany said, her voice desperate. She said she was just waiting for the right time to file for divorce. I laughed bitterly. The right time being after my company went public, and she could take half of $48 million. I looked at Claire with pure contempt. You weren't just unfaithful. You were running a con. You were setting up your exit strategy, making sure you had someone lined up to take care of you after you bled me dry. Claire's face was streaked with tears now, her makeup ruined. I loved you once. I really did. Once, I echoed, but not enough to stay faithful. Not enough to honor the vows we took. Not enough to think about what this would do to our son. I turned to Liam. This is important, son. Your mother didn't just cheat because she fell out of love with me. She cheated because she's broken inside. Because she's incapable of being satisfied with what she has. And no matter how much she tries to blame me or justify her actions. This is on her. All of it. Liam nodded slowly. I understand, Dad. Good, I said. Because you need to learn from this. You need to see what happens when someone prioritizes their own selfish desires over the people who love them, when they think the rules don't apply to them. I turned back to the microphone. Brittany was planning to open her own gym. A high-end boutique fitness center in the Gold Coast neighborhood. Price tag, $400,000. And my dear wife promised to finance the whole thing. Brittany closed her eyes. I'm sorry. I should have known it was too good to be true. You should have, I agreed. Because Claire doesn't have $400,000. She doesn't have $4,000. Everything she has, everything she is, was built on my success, my work, my money. And as of tonight, she has access to exactly none of it. Alexandria stepped forward. We've already frozen all joint accounts. Changed passwords on all shared credit cards. Mrs. Chambers will find that her access to the family finances has been completely cut off. Claire's eyes went wide. You can't do that. I need money. You need to get a job, I said coldly. Like everyone else in the world who doesn't have a sugar daddy funding their lifestyle. The ballroom was nearly empty now. Only about 20 people remained, most of them my closest business associates and Liam. Claire stood alone in the center of the stage, a broken woman in a $3,000 dress. But there was still one more piece to this puzzle. One more person who needed to answer for their role in this disaster. Robert and Patricia Donovan, Claire's parents, had been sitting quietly near the back of the room through most of this. Robert was 75, Patricia was 73, and both of them looked like they'd aged a decade in the past hour. Traditional Catholic values, strong moral compasses, and they were watching their daughter's complete moral collapse in real time. I turned to them. Robert, Patricia, I think you need to hear something. Robert stood slowly. We've heard enough, Elliot. Our daughter has shamed us beyond measure. We're going home. Please, I said. Just give me one more minute. Patricia touched her husband's arm, and he sat back down reluctantly. I pulled out my phone and opened a voice recording. 3 weeks ago, when Claire told me she was pregnant, I started carrying a digital recorder with me. I wanted to document everything she said, every lie she told. This recording is from 2 weeks ago, when Claire was on the phone with someone she thought I couldn't hear. I pressed play. Claire's voice filled the room through the sound system. I don't care what you think, her recorded voice said. The pregnancy is perfect timing. Even if Elliot has a prenup, the courts always side with the mother, especially when there's a baby involved. I'll get alimony, child support, probably half the business anyway, because Illinois is a marital property state. Another voice responded, female, older. It took me a moment to place it, but then I realized it was Andrea, the therapist. What about the DNA test? Andrea asked. If he demands one, then I'll deal with it. Claire's voice interrupted. I'll claim he's being abusive, that he's trying to control me. I'll file a protective order if I have to. The courts eat that stuff up. Judges always believe the pregnant wife over the husband. Robert's face had gone red. Patricia covered her mouth with both hands. The recording continued. Besides, my parents will back me up. They always do. They'll testify that Elliot was neglectful, that I was unhappy, that I deserved better. They'll help me paint him as the bad guy. I stopped the recording. The silence was absolute. Robert stood up again, this time shaking with rage. You were going to use us? Use your own parents to lie in court. Claire reached toward him. Daddy, I didn't mean. Don't, Robert said, his voice sharp as a knife. Don't call me that. Don't speak to me at all. He walked toward the stage, and for a moment I thought he might actually strike her. But instead, he stopped a few feet away and looked at her with such disappointment that even I felt uncomfortable. Your mother and I raised you in the church, Robert said. We taught you about honor, integrity, faithfulness. We showed you what a good marriage looks like. We gave you every advantage, every opportunity. His voice broke slightly. And you repaid us by becoming this. A liar, a cheat, a manipulator who would use her own parents as pawns in her schemes. Patricia stood and joined her husband. We're ashamed of you, Claire. Truly ashamed. And we want you to know that we support Elliot completely in this divorce. Claire's face crumpled. Mom, please. I'm your daughter. No, Patricia said firmly. Our daughter would never have done these things. Our daughter had values, principles. The woman standing in front of me is a stranger. Robert pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. and handed it to Alexandria. This is a letter stating that we will not be providing any financial support to Claire during or after the divorce proceedings. She won't be moving in with us. She won't be getting money from us. As far as we're concerned, she made her choices, and now she can live with the consequences. He turned to me. Elliot, you've been a good husband and a good father. You didn't deserve any of this. Patricia and I will testify on your behalf if it comes to that. And we'll continue to be in Liam's life if he wants us. I shook his hand. Thank you, Robert. That means more than you know. The Donovans walked out of the ballroom with their heads held high, leaving their daughter sobbing on the stage. Claire collapsed into a chair, her entire body shaking with sobs. Everything she'd built, every relationship she'd cultivated, every bridge she could have used to escape this disaster was burned to ashes. 3 days after the anniversary party that became a divorce announcement, I sat in my office at Industrial Solutions Corp., staring at the Chicago skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city looked the same as it always had, but everything in my world had fundamentally changed. My phone had been ringing nonstop. News of the party had spread like wildfire through our social circles, then jumped to local business networks, and finally made it to a few gossip blogs. Everyone wanted to know the details, wanted to confirm what they'd heard, wanted to pick a side. I ignored most of the calls. The ones I did answer were from my lawyers. Alexandria had been busy. Divorce papers were filed Monday morning, exactly as promised. Claire had been served at the house, which was no longer her house. I'd had the locks changed Sunday morning while she was staying at a hotel on her own dime. A knock on my office door interrupted my thoughts. Come in, I called. Liam entered, looking tired but more composed than he had 3 days ago. He'd been staying with me in my downtown apartment, refusing to have any contact with his mother. Hey, Dad, got a minute? Always, I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. How are you holding up? Liam sat down and rubbed his face. I don't know. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I keep thinking about all the time she lied to my face, and I just believed her. That's not your fault, I said firmly. You trusted your mother because that's what sons are supposed to do. She's the one who violated that trust. I know, Liam said, but I keep wondering what else she lied about. Like, my whole childhood. Was any of it real? I leaned forward. Your childhood was real, son. The baseball games I coached, the fishing trips we took, the nights we stayed up building that tree house in the backyard. Those were all real. Your mother's betrayal doesn't erase the good memories. It just means we have to build new ones without her. Liam nodded slowly. I've been thinking about school. Northwestern said they consider readmitting me for the spring semester if I retake the classes I cheated in and write a formal appeal. That's good news, I said, genuinely pleased. Yeah, but I don't want you to pay for it, Liam said quickly. Mom stole from you, from Grandpa's memory, from everyone. I want to earn my way back. I already applied for a job at Anderson Manufacturing. They're one of our suppliers, and they said they'd hire me in their quality control department. I felt pride swell in my chest. You don't have to do that. I can afford. I know you can, Liam interrupted, but I need to. I need to prove to myself that I can work for something instead of having it handed to me. Mom always made things easy for me, covered up my mistakes, and look where that got me. I want to be more like you. I want to earn what I have. I stood up and walked around the desk, pulling Liam into a hug. I'm proud of you, son. More proud than you know. Thanks, Dad, Liam said, his voice thick with emotion but steady. No tears, just determination. I'm going to make this right. I'm going to be the kind of man you can be proud of. You already are, I said. After Liam left, I turned back to my computer and opened an email from my CFO. The IPO paperwork was progressing smoothly. Barring any unforeseen complications, Industrial Solutions Corp. would go public in exactly 92 days. The valuation had actually increased to $51 million based on our recent contract wins. My 85% stake would be worth roughly $43 million. Claire would get exactly zero. My phone buzzed with a text from Alexandria. Judge approved the restraining order. Claire can't come within 500 feet of you, Liam, or the business. Also, Andrea Foster's medical license is under review by the state board. The ethics committee is very interested in her text messages. I smiled. Justice was being served, piece by piece. Another text came through, this one from an unknown number. This is Claire. Please, can we talk? I'm staying at the Comfort Inn on Route 90. I have nothing. No money, no friends, nowhere to go. Please. I deleted the message without responding. She'd made her choices. Now she could live with the consequences. 4 months later, I stood in front of the New York Stock Exchange with Liam by my side. The IPO had gone better than anyone expected. Industrial Solutions Corp opened at $62 a share, and by the end of the first day of trading, my 85% stake was worth just over $53 million. I'd built something real, something that would last, something that couldn't be taken away by lies or betrayal. Liam had earned his way back into Northwestern. He was working full-time at Anderson Manufacturing, attending night classes, and maintaining a 4.0 GPA. The kid who'd cheated his way through school had become a man who understood the value of honest work. The divorce had been finalized 2 weeks earlier. Claire tried to fight it, hired 3 different lawyers who all eventually quit when they realized there was no case to make. The prenup was ironclad. The evidence of her infidelity was overwhelming. She walked away with nothing except her personal belongings and a reputation that would follow her for the rest of her life. Last I heard, she was working as a receptionist at a dental office in the suburbs, living in a studio apartment, and trying to convince anyone who would listen that I had somehow wronged her. No one believed her. Ryan had moved to another state. Jason tried to reach out once through a mutual friend, apologizing and asking for another chance. I told the friend to tell Jason that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Andrea Foster lost her license to practice therapy. The state board found that she'd violated multiple ethical guidelines by actively helping Claire deceive me. She was facing a civil lawsuit from 2 other former clients who came forward with similar stories. Brittany closed her social media accounts and disappeared. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved back to her hometown in Ohio. Robert and Patricia stayed in touch with Liam and me. They came to his graduation when he finally completed his degree. They apologized at least once a week for their daughter's actions. I kept telling them it wasn't their fault, and eventually they started to believe me. Alexandria and I were still together. We took things slow, building a relationship based on honesty and trust instead of secrets and lies. She'd been there through the worst of it, and now she got a share in the best of it. What are you thinking about? Alexandria asked, slipping her hand into mine as we stood on the trading floor watching the stock ticker. I'm thinking about how sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what actually matters, I said. And what matters? She asked with a smile. Integrity, I said. Honor. Doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Being the kind of man my son can look up to. Liam overheard and grinned. You've always been that man, Dad. I just had to grow up enough to see it. We celebrated that night at a steakhouse in Manhattan. Just the 3 of us. No pretense, no show, no need to impress anyone. Just good food, good company, and the knowledge that we'd survive the storm and come out stronger. I thought about Claire once during dinner. Wondered if she ever regretted her choices. Wondered if she understood what she'd thrown away. Then I looked at Liam laughing at something Alexandria said, and at Alexandria looking at me with genuine affection, and I realized I didn't care what Claire thought anymore. I'd taken back my life. I'd rebuilt my relationship with my son. I'd found someone who valued honesty as much as I did. The future stretched out before me, full of possibility and free from deception. And that was worth more than any amount of money could ever buy.